What's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are gonna go over 5 things that the all-new 2023 Nissan Z does better than the Toyota Supra. All right, so setting off now in the Nissan Z. So, number 1 on the list, things that the Z does better, first and foremost, is the fun interior and the gauge cluster. So looking at the gauge cluster on the Nissan Z, we have a huge, it's like 12-inch LCD display, massive tach, you got all the information you're gonna need. You're able to monitor vitals like the water temperature, differential oil temp, transmission oil temp, engine oil temperature. On the left side, you can scroll up and down to see tire pressure, you get a boost gauge, you also get a G-force meter, and then you can even get out of this really cool screen, going into here and going into the enhance mode, and now you get a more traditional view like a modern car. The vitals are more pushed away and you now have a huge center screen. If you have navigation running in the car, you get a massive turn-by-turn direction thing right in the center. Now the Toyota Supra does have somewhat of a digital gauge cluster, however it's all fixed. You have half of the screen being not used for anything unless you're using navigation. This one I like how you can pick and choose. If you're using nav, the whole screen is nav. If you're using just the performance aspects, the whole screen is performance aspects. I think that gives it a really fun and more intuitive way to have a display screen. That seems to be one of the complaints with the Supra, even when it first came out, with the gauge cluster isn't really configurable. So I think that is a big plus. With that, you know, the fun interior, the Supra, one of the things that kind of bored me with it is they only offered really a black interior. The only way to even get the red interior from the beginning was if you got a launch edition car that was either in white or in black. So not many people got other than a black interior. This is a fun sports car. You want to have something that's a little bit different. This car spec'd with the red and black interior, it looks so cool. I mean, you can see the red when you're just walking up to the car, looking around. I just love the color. The blue interior is probably what I'm gonna buy, and I think that's just super bold. You know, these are sports cars, they gotta be fun, and this car gives you that. And even when you look at the old 370s, you had the gray, the black, a brownish interior. This is even better now that you get the colors, the reds, the blues. You can get the proto spec with the yellow. So I just think that's a really cool touch, and I just love sports cars with colorful interiors. So then number 2 on the list, kind of still into the interior, but is the interior space, the usability, the storage area, visibility, stuff like that. So visibility, when you're in this, you don't feel like you're in a hunkered down small little car. With the Toyota Supra, that's something that actually surprised me when I bought my car. It was a lot smaller on the interior than I expected. Obviously, this is a 2-seater car. It's not like it's gonna be, you know, a Rolls Royce or something, but the Supra is a very small car. It's almost as small as a Miata, to be quite honest. The Supra really does feel like a tiny hunkered down car. When you get in the Z, it's a little bit more open in here. You have a pretty large windshield. It feels a lot wider. The hood seems a little bit lower to where you can see through it nicely. When you look around your left and right shoulders and everything, the visibility is a little bit better. It just feels like there's more glass. It's a more open car to be in. And when you are sitting inside of it, it just feels like there's more room from left to right with your 2 passengers. The interior storage space is also a really big plus with the Z over the Supra. And there's just so many areas to make this small car actually very, very usable. Of course, the trunk is actually larger. It's much wider. You can fit bigger items in there. The Supra's is very narrow. So I like the fact that you get such a wide trunk. On the actual interior up here, I think this whole center console area is very smart. You get 1 cup holder there. When you slide this out of the way, all of a sudden you now have 2 cup holders, and you can still press the button and open it up, and you have a center glove box. When you look at the Supra, you get the 2 cup holders in the center, and the armrest is kind of having to do too many things at once. There's no center storage, and if you ever put anything in here, obviously it's in the way with things in your cup holders. You now have a smaller armrest, so this is really awesome. The storage areas in the doors are much larger as well. And then the section in here, it's so much easier to put your phone in the slot and just have more usable area. I love how this piece right here on the left and right, it means anything here isn't gonna slide out. When I had my Supra, I put my sunglasses there, and since there's nothing over here, they would literally fly out all the time. So I think the storage is just so much better in the car. My favorite bit of storage, you can't quite see it, I have my camera bag sitting right here, wedged behind the seat on the shelf back there. That is the coolest thing for a two-seater. You can put so many things right there that you are going to need good access to. Lauren had her purse back there on a lot of our trips. Makes it a lot better than throwing it in the trunk where it's going to slide all over the place, or having it by your feet to where it's going to be uncomfortable. I put my camera equipment there so I can easily reach back and grab it. Just putting stuff back there is so convenient. So the fact that you get a small car that is a very similar size with the Supra, and you get just so much space, visibility, and storage in a car like this, to me that's been a really big plus. Number 3 on the list, of course, is the trunk button. So I use the trunks a lot in my cars. I'm always putting camera bag in there, grocery shopping, going to the store to get other random things. I use the trunk in my cars. That's what they're there for, and I simply use them every time I drive my cars. Lunchbox back there, whatever. With the Supra, you get the trunk button on the door panel, and you get one on the key fob. The Z, you get one in the center right here, and you get one on the rear bumper. Now, you don't get one on the key fob, but my kind of reasoning why I think the Z is much better with the way they've done the trunk is, modern cars have a smart key. Right now, the key fob is sitting in my camera bag. I shouldn't ever have to actually hold the key. I can leave it in my camera bag, walk up to the car, lock and unlock it by pressing the door, get in, get out, start the car, do what I need to do. So why should I have to dig out my key fob if I'm coming up to the car from the outside to press that trunk button to put all my equipment in the trunk? With this car, you just walk up to the back and press the button, throw your stuff in the back, get in and go. So the trunk situation, I am so happy that Nissan threw a trunk button back there. It just makes this so much more practical. For being a small car that isn't the most practical, it makes it that much better. So then number 4 on the list is the rear brake. So kind of a quick topic for number 4. When you look at the Supra, so the 3.0, you get Brembo brakes up front. And one thing that I've always found to be super annoying when you're looking at any sports car, why do they give you cool, awesome performance brakes up front, but then in back they skimp out? The Supra just has the basic floating calipers that look like they're off of a Toyota Camry. And that to me, like, the premium gets them painted red to match the front. The normal 3.0, they're just silver. It's literally just basic brakes back there. While, yeah, if you put performance pads in any brakes, they're probably going to do just as good as the upgraded brakes. But aesthetically, I just love the look of a solid rear caliper that looks like a performance caliper. On the Z, you get the Aquabono braking system. Nice big calipers up front. They look really good. In back, you get matching calipers. They look good as well. They work. I mean, you slam on the brakes, and the car drops speed really quickly. They obviously are great brakes. Not to say either braking system is better or worse, but I feel like if you're gonna put a big brake kit on the car and advertise like, hey, look, we got big old brakes, we got the big Brembos, we got the Aquabono brakes, put them on the back. It just seems like a good touch to make the car that much better looking. So big brakes in the back, I'm glad Nissan did that. And they've always done that. The Supra, I don't know why they're not doing that. So then moving on to the 5th point, before our one honorable mention point, but number 5 is the pricing. Now, I've made a ton of videos on this car. Of course, there are a lot of people talking directly about the Supra and the Z as competitors, but number 5 is the price. When you look at this car, it is a very affordable sports car. This car we're in is fully loaded with every option you can get. It's around $53,000. However, you don't need to get the illuminated door sills. I'm not going to get that on my car. They're $500. Also, you don't need to get the two-tone paint. I'm going to get that on my car because it looks good, but that's $1,700. That's a pretty expensive paint option. I'm still going to get it because I think it looks good. But if you take those two options off that are just aesthetic, this car is $51,000, automatic or manual. For $51,000, you're still cheaper than the base 3.0 Toyota Supra. And on the 3.0 Supra, you're missing all the luxury options that this car has. This car has the navigation, the radar cruise, the parking sensors. You have, of course, all the performance features like the brakes, the differential, things like that. And but for $51,000, this car is spec'd out way better than the base 3.0. The heated seats, power seats, Bose audio system. There's more options than I can remember. You get a lot of car. Now, of course, there are some things that the Supra does better. I'm making a full video on that. But this is a much better price point car when looking at a base 3.0. When you look at the premium Supra, which has all the features that this car is going to have, only difference I think is that car is going to give you heads-up display, no heads-up on this car. But now you're talking $57,000 roughly. you know, that's a $6,000 price difference. That's a lot of money, $6,000 more for the few benefits that the Supra does offer you. If you're comparing the premium to these performance, you know, $6,000, that, I don't know, is it worth the $6,000 to get a few more benefits in the performance department? I don't know, that's up to the buyer. But the fact that Nissan priced this pretty well, I think is a really good way to go. And I think that leaves room for the Nismo edition to come in under 60 grand. I think the Nismo will be priced with the 3.0 premium Supra, and I think it is going to give that car a run for sure. And I'm really excited to see what performance edge it has over the Supra, and I think that's probably why Nissan priced this at the base model 3.0 Supra's price, but still $2 grand cheaper than that one. And then when you look at the basic, the sport model Nissan Z, you know, this car's 41 grand with destination. Again, that's a pretty affordable price point. That's below the average new car. So it's not too expensive to get into a 400 horsepower, fun to drive rear-wheel drive sports car. Of course, you'll need some improvements like the brakes, the differential, but quite honestly, that's a pretty good bargain. Toyota's offering at that price point, the 4-cylinder cost more than the base Z. And yet you still get the open diff, so at least that's comparing apples to apples. But you get a small 4-cylinder engine with not nearly 400 horsepower. So I think Nissan, again, they're appealing to the people who don't want to go too crazy on price and give you something at a really good value. So then, moving on to our one honorable mention, because I can't confirm this information, I bet you that the manual transmission Z is going to be better than the manual transmission Supra. So Toyota, finally, 3 years into the car, they've unveiled they are doing a manual. Of course, being built by BMW, it's going to be a BMW manual. Now, I'm not hating on that at all. I honestly want to buy an M3 one day, and I'm planning to get the manual. Fun car, of course. BMW manuals, when you look at the M2s, the M3s, M4s that I've driven, they're really good. However, the shifter is a little rubbery feeling. I wouldn't say it's the most notchy transmission out there. The clutch pedal, not the most feedback. It's a very easy manual transmission to drive. Now, if the Supra was the only car that existed, manual or automatic, I mean, obviously either choice is great. I'm not going to complain. But when you drive a 370Z with the manual, which is pretty much what the transmission is going to be in this new Z, it is a much more engaging transmission. It gives you driver feedback. It gives you that fun factor. It's a much more notchy and stiff feeling shifter to where you simply know what gear you're going into. There's no rubbery feeling between the gears. The clutch is also a little, takes some getting used to. You know, it's a clutch that you have to work for. And I feel like if you're buying a manual transmission car, you want that extra factor to where you actually have to work to drive it smooth. Anybody can drive a manual BMW very smooth, quite honestly. It's very easy to do. It's almost too easy. And I've had friends who bought brand new M2s, ordering it in the DCT transmission just because the manual was too boring. The dual clutch just felt more engaging. And I think with the 370, you get a really good manual. And the fact that this car is going to have that same manual, Supra is going to have a BMW manual, I think this is going to feel a lot more fun. So those are 5 things that the Z is doing better than the Supra. This has been a really cool car. Check out the description for the 5 things that the Supra is doing better than the Z. Of course, these cars are pretty good competitors. But there you go. That is the video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.